We all struggle with this right here. And if you're not, you're lying to yourself. Priority. Prioritizing things into your life. Because if we learn to master that, it helps us be much more successful in everything that we're doing. I know I have a lot going on. You probably do too. But how do you set the priority of what you do first? Or what do you focus on and really hone in on it? There are pluses and minuses to doing multiple things at the same time. But sometimes it helps to just really hyper focus into one thing and then you move on to the next. My struggles right now, I have plenty of things going on. I have two apps that I'm actually developing. We're wrapping up the development phase right now. I'm in the process of getting all my documents together to file taxes. I have, of course, main client I have to cater to when it comes to my design business. I have the real estate that I'm running and doing some repairs right now at the moment. So many different things going on. On top of that, I have a wife. I got music projects I'm working on. I have other apps projects I'm working on, and I have potential clients that are seeking my services. So how do you prioritize and juggle all these things at once? My tactics may not work exactly for you, but I'm going to share insights on exactly how I level set that off completely. First off, you want to focus on your needs and necessities, right? So we already know the main things of life is having food, shelter, water. Once you got those, then everything else matter, because you don't want to be in a survival mode. Once you can get out of that survival mode, then you can make choices in terms of what do you put first, what do you put second, what do you put third. So what brings shelters to me? What brings food to my table? How can I make sure I get adequate amount of water? So if you kind of reverse that, you'll see that for most people it's a job. Having a job, or if you own a business, making sure that business is running so that you can have the stream of income to continually receive so your basic needs are met. That's why I prioritize my main client. Where's that main source of money coming from? That main client, whoever they are, or that main job that you're doing, of course, you're going to set that as a priority. For those of us that are traveling and that are not on a hybrid schedule and actually going every day to an office, of course, that's draining, that sucks. For those of us that are in a hybrid work model, we have a little bit of advantage. For people like me who are more on the remote side, we save at least 10 hours a week of our time. And if your commute was shorter, of course, 5-6 hours, give or take, it's such a lifesaver getting 10 hours back of your life. Hopefully, you're getting a full sleep cycle. I know for me, I fit more things inside of my schedule, but somehow I still managed to have made it work before. Because when I didn't have the extra 10 hours, I somehow figured out how to manage all these things. So, main client, focus on that. Make sure that relationship is good, because that's the main source of money that's coming in, or the main clients that you have for your business. Once you make them happy, you know that the money's going to keep rolling in. Therefore, there shouldn't be any issues in that sense. So they're providing the main source. You get that income. Once that income comes in, now you can provide for yourself the basic needs of food, shelter, and water. For those of us that are sheltering in a rental situation, making sure that rent is paid. For those of us that have a home, make sure that mortgage is paid. For those of us that are landlords, of course, and probably inhabiting in a space that we're partially renting out, we want to make sure that's running good, because if all breaks loose, you tend to lose focus on what you need to focus on, because you got to now put everything aside and focus on that emergency. Everything would fall out the window. That now becomes the priority if all that is to happen. You wouldn't have a choice. It had happened to me. My main line had kind of went bad underground, so therefore they had to drill open the ground. My contractor took about a week and a half, replaced the pipe, and everything was back to normal. But I can tell you for a fact, nothing else mattered at that point but getting that pipe repaired. And I was willing to pay whatever he was asking for. I didn't second guess it. Found a way to make the money, paid him off, because I wanted that headache to completely go away. Those are emergency, life emergencies. Unfortunately, they're unforeseeable. They're going to happen, and you have no choice. Catastrophes happen. Look at with the thing with COVID. If you get sick, now everything else is thrown out the window. Priority is your health. That's why you want to also make sure that you're taking care of your health at all times. Not just when you're sick. When you're good, you're treating your body right and really eating right, getting adequate sleep, it really helps prevent those unforeseeable things inside of your body happen. But there are still circumstances. Some of us have genetic disorders that are passed down to us, and we're more likely to get certain diseases. Unfortunately, not everything is cured by just food. I am a strong believer that it can be, but I'm not no complete doctor or foodologist, nutritionist that can tell you that it's going to heal everything. It's really just focusing on doing the best that you can so that way you can be prepared and do a preventative care for your own body. We're past the main income, we're past the shelter, now the food on our table. Make sure that we eat. Of course, the source of that is going to come from the income. We got to make sure that we are eating a healthy meal. We got to make sure that we're eating a balanced meal. We're eating adequate enough, because I can tell you, for me, for a fact, if I can't have my fruits in the morning, I won't function as well. When I started doing that, adding that to my diet, it allowed me to really hyper focus a lot much more. My brain was processing things. It's like adding more CPU power to my brain, giving myself more RAM. Sorry, I'm nerding out for a little bit, but I have a lot much more power, computer power, and able to process things a lot much more efficiently. I'm also a vegan. I made that decision to go vegan over 7 years ago because I had a little bit of health complications with my red blood cell count. Genetically, I have a low red blood cell count, iron deficiency in that arena. So I had to really change my diet. That was one thing I tried. I went on a cleanse for 2 weeks and I couldn't go back to eating meat after that. I tried and my body completely rejected it, and that's how I accidentally became a vegan. But ever since I've been able to do that, I function a lot better. I don't have to have as much hours of sleep, even though I should get at least 8. I still am able to function quite a bit. Another thing I would say, priority that coincides with that, is sleep. It's so important, so crucial. I really realized after I turned maybe 26 is when my habits of thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to sleep till I'm dead, it went out the window, because I realized how important it became for me to be able to function much more better, produce a lot better, have a better output than yesterday. If you don't do that, it causes a lot of complications. And when many of us caught COVID, the one thing we probably were all desperate for was sleep. No matter how much medicine you took, you had to get adequate amount of sleep in order for your body to really fully recover. I couldn't sleep for 2 nights, I remember, because of all the headaches, feeling a certain way. But the minute I got that first good night of sleep, the next morning I woke up so much better. And then I slept again. I woke up so much better. Our body needs that healing process, and it does that healing when we give it enough adequate sleep. We're conserving our energy. I had to pause working out during the time when I had COVID and conserve as much energy so that my body can utilize that chi to repair itself. So now let's get down to managing everything else, right? When you have your business, and I'm not talking about inside of your business right now. We're talking about your overall cycle of life. You got your business you're operating. You got your family life. You got other projects that you're working on. And I'm going to look at it from my use case and see how I'm doing it, and hopefully it can shed some light upon you, because it's a work in progress. We all have to work on it. Just because I'm saying what is working for me doesn't mean it can't be better. It can also be improved. So main client taken care of, food, shelter, water taken care of. Now I have these 2 app projects I'm working on, and I really wanted to get them done since last year, but unfortunately things has happened and it caused some hindrance. Where do I fit all this into my schedule? I meet a couple of times a week with my developers. We set time, but what I do is not try to crunch it to such a short timeline. Even though I did, one of the apps is actually an app that I'm using to store my receipts, and I'm using it, leveraging it for taxes. It's working very nicely. My developers did a surprising job. It took twice as long than I anticipated. I was hoping to get it done in end of January, but we are in mid-March and it's now in its final stage. I set the expectation so that way I gave myself enough time, and I'm still a month out to the tax filing date. And I'm slowly working on taxes. That's another thing too. It's like, where do I fit the tax filing into the whole ecosystem? So on weekends now, I wake up in the morning and try to get as much documents together and start organizing. One thing you cannot do is thinking you're going to get all this stuff done all at once. So with my tax filing, I have my real estate. I have my business income, which bleeds into my personal income. I also have assets like stocks, crypto. I didn't really sell anything last year, but I know I had some staking that I did that I'm most likely going to be paying a little bit of taxes on. On top of that, I have a music business, and that's pretty much about it. With the music business, it ties into my entertainment brand, so all that combined together, it creates the complexities of my taxes. But I focus on the smallest and easiest thing I can do first, which for me right now is probably the music business because I didn't do as much transaction. Then I'll move on to real estate. I probably had one repair that I did last year. And now I can move on to the complicated part, which is my main core business, which bleeds into my personal income. Because with the combination of the two from my personal income, I have the tax deductions for all the charitable organizations I donate to and all these things. And my main business, I have all the expenses I had, promotion, advertising, people I hired, labor, contract work, all this stuff I got to deduct on top of the income that I received. So balancing all that stuff out is what I push towards last because it gets a lot much more complicated. But one thing that's also helped me is having a recognition of all the checkpoints over the years. I added an Excel spreadsheet of all the checkpoints I need to check for in terms of making sure I've covered all areas of receipts. Because I remembered till like almost close to where my accountant was about to send the tax filing over, I told him, I forgot one more asset that I had and I made money for it and I sold the mutual fund. And he was like, yeah, you forgot to do that. If we had sent this, you would have had probably got audited or get in some type of trouble. So it's always good to have those checklists that you build out. I'm not going to lie to you, as I get older, I'm realizing how much more I'm dependent upon technology, just making sure that my brain maybe forgetting certain things and making sure you have all that logged somewhere inside of a list. So moving on past that, so business, tax filing, all that stuff is all in order. Those apps are all in order. Now the next thing I have is on the real estate side. Right now I'm not doing as much except for one unit that I'm doing some repair, just getting things up to par. It takes some type of planning, but I can't let that overtake my day. Remember, the client that's bringing the main source of income is my priority during the day because I got to make sure I cater to them. So ensuring that I'm not super hyper focused on that during the day is very helpful because it's easy to get distracted. I can tell you that. I sometimes struggle with that. I'm planning this. I got to call this company and that company and such. You could do it within like an hour period, but don't try to cram that into your day. You got to really hyper focus into some of the client work, because what happens is if you every time you take a pause on doing one thing and then jump to the next thing, you could lose 15 minutes of refocus. It takes your mind to 15 minutes to really refocus back on what you was working on. So therefore, if you can hyper focus for an hour or 2 hours, get something done, you are going to save time if you add it all up within a day's time, a week's time. It's better if you could get all the work in one area done in 5-6 hours early, then you have an extra 2 hours to do everything else versus try to fit 15 minutes there, 20 minutes there, and then you get distracted and then you lose focus. And I'm preaching to myself as well because it's something I'm continuously improving on and trying to get better at. Lastly, how do I overlook like investments and assets and stocks? I'm not going to front. I look at that stuff every day, especially when the market is going up. When it's going bad, not as much. I'm really looking for opportunities to enter because when it's bad is when I usually buy. And when it's going up, I just look at it for the sake of, oh man, I'm up quite a bit today. We are on a rally right now in terms of the stock. Real estate, we don't know what's going on with that. It's pretty much at a standstill. Numbers still don't make sense with current interest rates. But when stocks and real estate, we've seen that the markets is at an all-time high, but a lot of stocks are still battered. So those all-time highs are probably from I'm feeling is more from aggregated funds, mutual funds, ETFs, things like that. But crypto has definitely seen the rise. It's not at its peak from where it was at many years ago. Ethereum and Bitcoin, definitely. They're hitting those peaks that they had back in 2021. Although I look at this every day, I'm not going crazy. I really learned to make sure that I like it's just more on a passive scale. Like I'm not using these, looking at this every day as a way for it to trigger me. It's much more like to see, oh, how well I am doing. Plus, as I'm sharing more and more with you all the time, seeing what the market is reacting to, any news that you need to pay attention to, is the reason why I look at these things quite a bit. But other than that, it's completely on a semi-passive scale. My well-being, the number one thing I can say, on top of sleep, which I mentioned before, prioritizing your spiritual. For me, that's following the scriptures, making sure that I put God first. That's in Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added onto you. I really try to start my day with devotional or someone reading the Bible, going through scriptures, so that way I'm programming my brain to know that this is the way that I want to start my day, and not directly looking at stocks, looking at emails. It's an easy habit. We all get stuck on our phones. First thing we want to do in the morning, check our Instagram or social medias and such, because we've been programmed like that. Let me tell you, it's a drug. It's pretty addictive. It's actually not good for your mind. It's not good for your anxiety level, your stress level, and it's something I'm continuously working on to improve for myself as well. Just making sure the first thing I want to do, I'll probably open YouTube. I understand it's a social media, but I'll listen to one of those Bible readings, and I'm going through a 1-year thing right now, and it's been great doing that, and then also praying. So even if you don't open your phone, you start with a prayer, or for some of us that might be meditation. But I will say, for me, my Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, and is the really true fountain and source of my life that has helped me through where I'm at today. Therefore, it's only right I start the day that way. So that way I'm in the flow, I'm in the positive, I'm in the much better feel. I don't have as much of that anxiety and able to carry forth on. That's pretty much, for the most part, how I prioritize my day. The music side, I do still work on music, but I put it on a very shorter schedule because I do have a lot of tracks and everything, a lot of songs. I separated it now in terms of periods where I can work on content and periods where I can work on marketing and promoting stuff. I'm never doing the two at the same time right now because it causes me to be mentally distracted and allow me to not be hyper focused. Like, I don't feel like I have the best marketing strategy when I'm focused on trying to create content at the same time. Therefore, one has to come before the other. And plus, I got another brand, which is this channel right here that we're looking at, that I'm also trying to deliver content to you. This is probably the only thing where it's like I'm working on something almost simultaneously, because it's much expressive to me. Trust me, you being on the other side helps me out, and I'm hoping what I'm giving you helps you out as well. It's a two-way thing. But the entertainment, as you can say, is much more for a way for us to share with each other and communicate. And I really try for the music side is just work things in that manner, in that way, structure it that way, so that way I can be as effective as I can be when it comes to releasing, sharing more content. I hope you found all this insightful. I hope it gives you some landscape that we all have a million things going on completely, but we got to always try to fit in a sort of priority inside of our life. One thing I don't want to forget too is family time. It's so crucial and important. You cannot live based upon just having all these things, all these successes, and neglect that. So if you are married, you have a wife, that's your family. You got to make sure you dedicate time towards that. One thing my wife do every Wednesday, no matter what it is that we're doing, we put time towards doing a 2-hour like Bible study. We were also going through some devotionals before together, but it really helps us grow. And I can tell you that midweek, it's so crucial for me to keep functioning. It gives me so much energy to keep going throughout the week. Mental energy, I'm talking about spiritual energy, that encouragement that is the source of my fuel. And it's just so great. And then we have some other Bible studies that we do, but I always fit God into my life some way, because no matter what I have going on, I know He provides for me in ways sometimes I couldn't even imagine. My basic needs are met for sure, but it comes with abundance, and I'm super grateful for all these things. So Like, share, subscribe. Of course, if you have any comments for me, drop it below. And I'd love for us to continue building and growing with each other. Peace and love. Trust in Jesus. Have an amazing one. Hustle, 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 step.